Hi Carla darling, on the anniversary of your dad's death, the 3rd anniversary, we come together today at 11 Train Street at your house to remember Matthew and remember your dad. So I hope it all goes very well today and that you're able to get a bit of a greater understanding of your complex and crazy dad. So I met your dad at the Loaded Dog Hotel. I was with Liz Burke and it was winter time and we had lots of warm clothes on, including leather jackets. And I met your dad literally as soon as I walked in the door, and we had a very fun conversation, and after that conversation he looked at me and said, "I'm going to marry you." And then he got up and sang a song with the band. I thought he was with the band, and it was only when I left that I was told that no, he wasn't with the band. He just gets up with bands when they're there. And so that's my memory, first memory of meeting your dad. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Fiona. I'm Gina's first cousin and met Matthew when Gina and Matthew were married from that time. And I do remember the wedding very well, and everyone will probably say the same thing about your dad, Carla, at the wedding. He gave the most spectacular speech. He was very vociferous. And it was amazing. People were astounded. I also remember that day very well because I danced with my father, which I hadn't done for a very long time. I remember having dinner with your mum and Matthew when your mother was pregnant with you, and we were invited over, I and my horrible boyfriend at the time, whose name I won't even mention, but I do remember having a lot of fun, and that your dad was in particularly top form. I remember the Geelong football player photos that decorated that apartment in St Kilda, and particularly the one of Gary Ablett, who your father, as well as many other people, described as God. I also remember your dad when he was in a particular fitness phase, which I think came and went over time. But I do remember that he would run in from St Kilda to me in the State Film Centre when I was running the cinemas there. He would run in and turn up and always find me, and we'd always sit down and have a glass of water, a cup of tea, and then he'd run all the way home again. And he was generally a charming, interesting, funny, warm, intelligent person, and they're my enduring memories of your dad. Obviously he went through some really difficult times as well, and I know that was difficult for everyone around him and his family. But they're my memories, and I know that you've heard your mother and I and various other people talk about this man and how funny and full of energy and interest, and he really was that man. So yeah, I hope they're good memories to share.
Carla, I remember Matthew well. I've been thinking about it all morning. I remember I used to have coffee with Gay in Fitzroy Street, and every time we were down there, who'd turn up but Matthew? I said to Matthew, "How are you? How's Rob going?" "Oh," Matthew replied, "he can't help it, Lisa, he can't help it." Anyway, it was very funny, and then one time he came and sat with us and we shouted him a drink and we had a great old chat. He had the best one-liners. It was fantastic. Then I used to see him in Princess Street. He used to be sitting there outside the Elephant and Wheelbarrow having a cigarette. I remember prior to that I saw him jogging. He used to quite often jog round the park there. And yeah, look, he was a great guy and much love. That's it.
2, 1.
Hello, Carla. Now, I've been thinking about the story that I would like to share with you, but of course, every story I tell has to have something to do with me and Mummy. So, I think the thing that struck me most about your dad was that, well, I have to go back a bit first. You see, when my girlfriends get a boyfriend, my job is really clear. My job is not to like them. Not to like them for when I first meet them, and not to like them for some time. It's a test that they have to go through. But you see, the problem was, with your dad, I liked him straight away. And it completely threw everything, because from there, I had no game plan to go with. So I couldn't actually give him those looks, I couldn't ask him lots of questions, I couldn't actually sort of test and push. I just liked him. I liked him because he made me laugh. He always made me laugh, although every time I say that, I cry. I should say cut, but I'll hang on. I think I cry because I just wish you had met him then, because you would have liked him too, and you would have liked him straight away, and you too would have laughed with him, and I feel sad that you didn't get that. So I'm going to stop now. I love you, I love Mummy, I love everything about you. Bye bye.
Hi. Hello. Thank you all so much for coming. So Thursday was 3 years since Dad died, and it was really important for me this year in particular to have an opportunity to honour him, and because more and more I feel like I don't really have the best sense of who he was. I have memories of him, a lot of memories with John, about him every time I was at St Mary's and there was no other kids there, and I still hadn't been picked up, and it was a long time after the bell had rung. I knew that he was with John. So I would wait, and then they would arrive very late, and I would say, and I remember him teaching me how to make musk stick pencils. A skill that I've tried to recreate recently to demonstrate to someone, and feels like can't really do it. So I'll have to try and get that going again. And I also remember when Rob was in hospital and he was very unwell and we didn't really know what was going on, and I was at Dad's house and together we wrote a song. One of the lines being, his heart is pacing, he's the minister for racing. Tough quality. But so because all that was sort of around the time that I was in grade 3 or 4, and then after that a lot of the time was visiting him in hospital or times when he wasn't himself. So for me it would be really great to hear from all the people that have better memories of when he was himself. So that's why today we've got the video camera here, which will be set up in the front room, and I'd really appreciate if anyone has a story, doesn't have to be long, doesn't have to be anything special or particularly, you don't have to feel like it's that important, but for me it would really mean a lot to have something that I can look back at and think like, oh yeah, that's a small little memory, that's a time that I don't have that many small little memories of. So the camera will be in the front room.
Well, and that's how you knew Matt or anything like that?
Yeah, anything that has to do with Dad would be great. So Mum will you can go with Mum into the front room and she can direct you and help you through that. So I would really appreciate that, anyone that's able to do that. So yeah, that's why I obviously to honour Dad, and it's 3 years since he died, and this is the first opportunity to get this many people together to celebrate him, and B, to get a better sense of who he was from people that definitely knew him better than I did. So thank you for coming. There is plenty of food, some of which has been taken into the fridge, but it can be brought back out, so please enjoy and drink. And Mark would like to say a few brief words to begin with.
I'm not going to take long because it's been a funny week in a lot of ways because he's sending messages. He's sending a lot of messages to a lot of people at the moment, and it's probably because he was a bloke who, in the end, you could probably have a lot of reasons not to like him too much at times. But because he was such a good bloke, we're all here today. Because he'd built up such a bank of goodwill, we still love him, even though he's no longer with us. But Johnny Dyer is going to talk probably a bit more about Matthew's teen and later years. I'm just going to give a very brief snapshot of his very early years because I did share a bedroom with him for a while. Matt, as a young kid, was I think it's fair to say he was a goody two shoes. Would my siblings agree with that? He was a suck. He was sort of your teacher's pet style, you know. But voracious reader, loved acquiring knowledge. If you knew Matt when he was about 11 or 12, he could quote every single Aesop fable. He was absolutely obsessed with Aesop, a Greek person, for those who don't know, who expressions like "don't count your chickens before they're hatched." If you go back and look at Aesop on the Google or whatever, you will see so many quotes on the Google. You'll see so many quotes that are still relevant today that are from Aesop. And Matthew was a devotee of Aesop, and it probably gives you a bit of an insight into the sort of person he was. He thought a little bit beyond just what we're seeing on the surface. Incredibly intelligent, was not as good a footballer as he thought he was. He was a shithouse kick, wasn't he, Rob? We used to have a triangular kick to kick, and whenever I had to receive it off Matt, I used to try and turn it the other way because you always did a lot more running, trying to find the ball when Matt kicked it. His old man adored him. He was very special in the old man's eyes, as he was in all of our eyes. When I shared a room with him when I was in fourth form, I'd argue, and I probably wasn't the best academic student, or best student, and it worried me greatly that Matthew was doing more study in Form 2 than I was doing in Form 4, and I sort of thought, perhaps I haven't got the same commitment that I should have. When he put his mind to something as a young man, he gave it 100%. And the fact that he was the only one of the three boys who was selected into the AGS combined football side reflects that when he went hard at the pill, he went real hard. I remember when we put the death notice in, you may recall we agreed on the fact that some people like the calmness of the merry-go-round. Matthew preferred the Big Dipper. No question. And I'd just like to thank Carla and Vadim. I mean, this is a phenomenal day. It's lovely. We all haven't got around to meeting each other, but a celebration of Matthew's life is such a great idea. And I would like to just present on behalf of the Hulls family a present to Carla, which is Aesop's Fable. So, and I've written in there, to know Aesop is to know Matthew as a young man. Yeah. But enough of me. Could you welcome Johnny Dyer? And there's one other thing I just want to quickly say is that one of the reasons Matthew was very lucky is that he had a very supportive family. I'd especially like to highlight the commitment from his sister Jane and his brother Rob, who, like, we all love Matt, we all sought him out and we tried to help him, but I would argue that Jane and Rob gave more time and were so committed to helping Matthew that I'd like to formally acknowledge that in front of, that's not to suggest that any of us didn't, but they were special in the way they looked after Matt and checked on him and went to see him and did all that. So amongst all our friends, I'd like to formally acknowledge Jane and Rob. And lastly, we're going to hear from Johnny Dyer, and Johnny will give you a bit of an insight, I think, into Matt's era where he the years. For Johnny, we're talking about loyalty. There's a lot of reasons why Johnny could have walked away from the friendship. He never bloody did, and probably as loyal a friend as anyone could have wanted. And the fact that he's here today and is going to say a few words about those years, we'll hand it over to Johnny.
Thanks, mate. Thanks, mate. Well, it's good you got a bit of a memory, Carl. You've remembered some good things there. Well, look, today, as we all know, is about remembering Matt and giving Carla some... you got me there, mate. Sorry, and giving Carla some insight as to she puts it into her complex and crazy father. So it's with some interpretation that I begin my perspective of Matt. So we'll begin with some good old-fashioned flattery about your dad, which is easy to do for me because he's a fantastic bloke. Good. So we'll go back to school. Now, Matt, not everyone remembers, but Matt was a really good middle distance runner. And he took that into adulthood. And I told this story 3 years ago, but I'm going to tell it again for those who don't know. Matt, he was a really good athlete. He won a triathlon, won the St Kilda Triathlon, which was a great effort. It was over 750 metre swim, 20k bike ride, and a 5k run, which you'd all agree is a bloody awesome effort. And the thing was with those triathlons, you do it in alphabetical order. So my surname starts with D, so it was A to D, then it was E to K, and so on. Now Halsey obviously starts with H, but he started with me, so we got a 10-minute head start on the rest of them. And, but it didn't matter because in the next day in the Herald Sun, Matthew Hales, winner of the St Kilda Triathlon. It was fantastic. So we dined out on that one for a long time. It was really good. Now Matt, Carla, you might know or not know, but he was voted head prefect in Year 12. Now that's reserved for the most popular and respected bloke at school, and so it was no surprise to us when Halsey got that that he got it because he was definitely the most popular and respected guy at school. So he was a fantastic guy, and as Mark alluded to, well, I've gone on the fact that he was a gun footballer because he told me that many times. So, yeah, he was a gun footballer. He was captain of the vice captain of the first 18. And as Mark said before, he represented the AGS, which is the Associated Grammar Schools, well, Halsey likes to say the Australian Grammar Schools, at the end of the year. And he did go hard, like Mark said. I still remember him. I can see this wet day. We wore this long jumper, and he's just looking at the ball, wouldn't think of it, running straight into the pack, bang, takes the mark, and everyone else just skittles over. It was just fantastic. It's great to have that memory, because he was tough and uncompromising, Halsey. He just went straight for the hard ball. He was also a pretty handy swing bowler, which not a lot of people know about his cricketing prowess, but his batting left a bit to be desired, but his bowling got him a trip to Tassie, and we're on a school trip in Tassie, and it didn't take us long to realise that footy was probably his where his prowess was, because he was fielding it mid-off, and a guy slammed it to him mid-off, and instead of putting his hands here or here, just went straight in the chest mark. And he took the chest mark. It was a bloody good chest mark. And then we're also on Tassie, we started thinking that it was a bit dubious that he actually got selected for his ability too, because we thought it was more for his social convening activities, his ability, because we went through about 20 pubs as 17-year-olds in St Kilda led by Halsey. Now, Halsey and I actually revisited Tassie not long after that, and he introduced me to the flush accommodation at the Scoreboard Hotel, which was aptly named because it was actually a scoreboard on an oval. When in the old days they had big scoreboards like, this big, you could fit in it, which we did, and we stayed in there for about a week in Tassie. Fantastic. Very innovative. Anyway, we headed back to Melbourne, and then Halsey thought, look, come on, mate, we'll go to Queensland. All right, so off we go. So we landed in Queensland, and we were a bit light on cash at that stage of our lives. Still are, nothing's changed, but we're really light on cash then. So next thing I know, there's a Kentucky Fried Chicken bucket in the middle of Cavill Avenue in Surfers Paradise, and Halsey's got this stick, and he just goes, roll up, have a go and try your luck, And so we'd have the Kentucky Fried Chicken, people flicking coins into the bucket and paying them 2 to 1, And this went on for a while, and then until the local constabulary marched down Cavill Avenue and said, no, this is on, boys. And so off we went, even though there was an illegal casino just straight behind us. But off we went, but it was worthwhile for it. We had a bit of pocket money to continue our trip. Now we moved back to Melbourne, and a couple of years went past, and he's about 26, and we're in a pub in Fitzroy, the Loaded Dog, I think it was, and that's where he met your mum. And he spent the night serenading Gina with Johnny Farnham songs. And it obviously worked because 2 years later you were born. And you were born at that hospital behind the G somewhere there, in the Mercy Hospital. And I remember visiting you with Halsey, and you know, he's so proud. There's his beautiful daughter, and I still remember him saying this to me. You know, he goes, "Mate, I don't want to be biased, but gee, she's beautiful, mate." I said, you know, followed up by, "Do you reckon she looks like me?" You know.
Not half.
But now your dad was and as you grew up, which you alluded to before, we'd pick you up from school, and I remember you saying, your one quote was always, "I knew it," and we go, "What do you mean?" "Well, I knew you'd be picking them up because you're late," which is true. No, Matt didn't have the punctuality skills, all the organisational skills of your mum, but still, he'd pick me up and I'd take along, you know, head down to Katona Gardens where you and your dad would have great fun down there. It was fantastic, great memories. Now, no one could tell a joke like your dad, right? No one could ever argue that. He had a great way of telling stories and jokes, and he'd drag you along because through his story, he'd just be laughing, you know, have this laugh, and you'd just be laughing all the way to the punchline. So it didn't matter what the punchline was. You were already in mass hysteria, you know. He was fantastic, you know. He just had a great way, and he couldn't help but be drawn in. People couldn't help but be drawn in to Matt, you know. Matt never got embarrassed, you know. He did a karaoke night. I wasn't there, but at the end of the karaoke night, they give you a tape, and I was there when he played the tape to me. So we're in the car. He said, "Listen to this one." Puts in the tape, and we laughed for about the next half an hour. And I reckon, I'm only going to say that the tape didn't do justice to how Matt thought his performance. But that was the beauty of Matt too. Like he'd do things that other people were too nervous or afraid to do. You know, it was nothing for him. You know, it'd be a group of us at St Kilda Beach, and off he'd go. You know, a case straight out. And we loved to follow Matt and do stuff with him, but none of us would be doing that. You know, he just had no fear. You know, he'd stand up in public, tell jokes, tell stories, dance. He'd do anything. And then, of course, though, he had to deal with his illness, of course, and it'd be wrong to ignore that. So he had to deal with his illness, and he had manic depression. And, you know, for Matt, he carried this for 35 years. Like a lot of people get sick and they recover and all that, but he carried it for 35 years, and he did a great job, really, of carrying this by himself. And when he first had it, he didn't know how to deal with it himself, so it was really hard for him, you know. And he didn't know what was happening to him. And then, but over time, he'd become aware of the symptoms, and he'd take action on it, or sometimes not take action. Because to him, he always said, "These are the only drugs I know that make me feel worse, not better," right? And for such a vibrant guy, such a, you know, big personality, that you can't blame him for sometimes just wanting to go off his medication just to feel like himself again. And so he would do that from time to time, and then sometimes he'd be a bit too much like himself, you know. And but again, he'd have to go into hospital and all that. And when he went into hospital, it wasn't like a you know, 1 day or 3 days thing. It was often, you know, 8-10 weeks that he'd stay in the hospital, you know, and to get his levels back right and everything. And then he'd come out, you know. And then one of the symptoms of things, or one of the byproducts of his illness, was that he'd be at home and he'd lock himself away. Like he wouldn't want to see anyone. Doesn't matter how close you were to him, family, friends, whatever. So he didn't want to be like that. It was just how it was with the medication. It was so hard for him because he wanted to spend more time with everyone, but he couldn't. And I always remember him saying, you know, "John, mate, it's just a hand I've been dealt, and I've got to deal with it." And he dealt with it he dealt with it really well. And you'd respect that after a while, you know, and you'd try and push him to come out, but then you'd remember and he'd just go, "No worries, mate, you know, we're always here when you want us to be, blah, blah, blah." And he dealt with it. He's a great bloke, obviously. And I guess summing up for you, I just let you know that your dad had amazing courage, unbelievable personality. Like I was saying, he drew everyone to him. He's the most charismatic bloke I've ever met in my life, and like a lot of us would have ever met. Like he'd you know, people say there's that expression, you know, 1 in a million. Well, that's bullshit when it comes to Hulk, because it's 1 in a billion. Because he's just absolutely amazing. There's no one like him at all. And like Mark said before, he was so intelligent. To have that wit that he had to be the smartest bloke around, because he's just so clever with it. He'd see something, just make it funny. He was unbelievable. And of course, he loved his daughter more than anything as well. And just last thing I'd like to give, I've got to give too. Well, it's Christmas,
I
isn't
made
it?
you cry and I made you bring
Oh yeah, you're good, mate. You're good. And now this is an amazing little gift I've had. Now Matt gave me this 20 years ago, right, to look after for him, right? So I looked after him. This is his jacket from what he got for full colours, adorned with his full colours for his life, his footy skills.
Wow.
So I've had it too long. I think it's your turn to have a colour. If you like the green jacket, I'll put on you. But yeah. Oh yeah, you can wear it. There you go. This is how small Matt went his bones.
Yeah.
Oh, it's really good.
Hey!
That's me. Thank you very
Well
much.
done, Johnny. Fantastic.
So, in conclusion, thank you both for speaking. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Julian, our family friend, who provided all the paid for all the beautiful food. Thanks to Mum and Nick for organising the camera and Nick being the videographer.
So hang on. Just an establishment shot. Thank you.
And please enjoy the rest of the day, drink, eat and share stories, and I will listen because that's why we're here. And yeah, I really appreciate you all for making the effort to come, and I think Dad would have really... Oh, also thank you Courtney, who was our bartender. Yeah. And Courtney, also if you'd like to join in a celebratory lime cordial. Dad loved a lime cordial. And there is some behind the bar, so feel free to enjoy a lime cordial in the bar. And thank you for coming.
Well done, Carla.
Very good, can you?
Oh, I'll just try something.
Thank you for being on.
Up Carla, up Carla. Your dad was a very unique person. I would have to say we had a unique relationship. Probably started off with John Burke and Lois Hulls having, dates back in the day. I think that Matthew felt there was, some sort of connection to me. But I loved your dad. He was good fun. He made everyone laugh. Yeah, I miss him. I'm sad that I didn't make more an effort later when he got very ill or whatever. But I think Matthew was just a good bloke, and yeah, I loved him. Enough now. Is that alright?
Righto.
G'day, Carla. I know Matt from school. We went to school from year 6, I think, at Peninsula. We had a wonderful time. Yeah, we had a wonderful time. We went to Tasmania for cricket. We misbehaved badly over there. We misbehaved badly a lot. With John, we're a little group. We had enormous fun. Sad to see him go. We miss you. The good die young. Yeah, he's missed. He was first to go. He's broke his group up. But Carla, you had a really good. Well, he had a lot of fun too. You know. That's enough tuna. Sorry. Oh, that's shit.
God, I look ugly. Hi Carla, this is Christian. I went to school with Matthew. He was one of my closest friends, and I always found him incredibly witty and funny. I remember one time we had an English literature essay, and it was 500 words, had to be done in 2 hours. He'd done half a page in that 2 hours, and he still got an A, because he was insightful and he just thought about it. He only did half a page and he still got an A for it, and that's ridiculous. Another time he just had a sense of humour that was ridiculous. I'm trying to think of a funny one. But he'd do so many funny things. He'd look at someone and go, well, Moonface got out of trouble, didn't he? And it was some poor bloke that he didn't say it to his face, but he'd say it, and he'd sort of, everyone would kill themselves laughing, because that's how quick he picked something. He picked things up all the time. And he was a lovely person, and that's me. Thank you.
Hello, Carla.
Hello, Carla.
This is story time with Eileen and Kathy. Do you want to sit here?
No, they're coming together.
So, this is a story we're going to tell together, and it was, gosh, how many years ago, Eileen?
Well, it was on the way to Liz Burke's funeral.
So, yeah.
2004.
Wow. Okay, so that was a while ago. It seems like yesterday.
So we were going together, and then you said Matthew needs a lift. Kathy,
Gina said.
Yeah, Gina said. So, you knew where he lived. Was it Fitzroy Street?
Yeah, it was in the flat seat. Yeah, so yeah, I've got another story about that too in a minute. So yes, so we went around and picked up Matthew. I had the sunroof open because it was a lovely day. We were travelling to Pakenham.
Yeah.
Eileen was riding shotgun with me.
And some Aussie song came on the radio. It could have been AC/DC or something like that. And he put the window down.
All the windows down. He put all the windows down because they were all on remote.
And he put his hand out the window and started banging the roof to the beat of the music. And we're in Kathy's BMW. And I'm thinking...
Which was actually new at the time, wasn't it? I'd only had it about a year.
Matthew, do you think you might want to put the windows up?
He's like, no.
And then...
and he kept perfect beat too, and he knew every single word to every song. Because it didn't just last with one song, it went on for about 6.
Yeah, it did. It was a really entertaining trip there.
And we laughed and we laughed.
But then there was this other classic line. We were talking about where we grew up, and Kathy said, oh, Brighton, St Joan of Arc, da-da-da. And he goes, you know, Kathy, Brighton isn't a suburb. And Kathy said, it is so. And he goes, no, it's not. It's a way of life. Which was classic to Kathy.
So we were going down to obviously something that was really sad, and I've got to say I felt a bit guilty that we literally laughed our way the whole way down, which was all because of Matthew.
Yeah, great guy. Good fun. Did you have another story?
I've just got another quick story. So this was probably, it was a few years after the last story, and Matthew was living in his groovy little apartment in the church, and he invited me around to come and see it and show me all of his things, and we were going to go out for a bit of coffee afterwards. So I went round, and he had all of these amazing photo boards. Do you remember his photo boards, Gina? They were incredible. And he brought out one specific photo board that he already had pre-prepared up there for showing, and it was of all of us when we were young and skinny and groovy, and we all thought we were fat and not groovy. Yeah, we were all, it was obviously at parties and things. I don't know, he collected all these photos. He knew every single, not only every single person obviously in the photo, but he knew every single situation that that photo had been taken in. There was one photo, and it must have been a party somewhere, I even can't remember now, but he was like, it was a party, oh I know, it was a party at Margaret's, of course. It was a party at Margaret's and we were all there, and I was in the photo, and Vanessa and Gina, you were there. There was a whole bunch of us. He was telling us all about the lead up to the day. His memory was phenomenal. Then we sat there and sang the Geelong Footy Club song.
You and he?
Yeah, because he loved Geelong. We went through every single Geelong footballer that had been drafted that year and the whole team, and he gave me his opinions on what he thought we would do and where he thought we would finish. I think he was pretty accurate as well. And then we went down to Fitzroy Street to have a coffee, and we sat outside, fagging away. Those were the days when you still could. And Matthew knew every single person that walked past. So what turned out to be, oh, let's just go down for a quick 20-minute coffee, I think it was 2.5 hours later, because he was greeting his public as they were walking up and down. And it was, yeah, a fab day.
Treasure the memories, Carla.
Okay, Carla, my name's Peter. Everyone calls me Packer. I knew your dad. I knew him well. This will be very short. He used to tell a story, a joke actually. He used to tell a good story as well. But he used to tell a joke about a wheelie bin and where have you really been. And your mother's laughing. She might remember it. Yeah. I don't know. But I can't remember the joke. I can only remember the punchline of where you really been, and it was in a wheelie bin. So the point of it is that whenever I hear someone talk about a wheelie bin, I think of your father because of the joke and how much he laughed of it. So although he's not with us anymore, I still think of him on a not a regular basis, but whenever that comes up, I always think of him. So he's still in my memory. That's my story.
Well, Carla, as you know, Matt was my youngest brother. I didn't spend a lot of time at home with Matt because I'd sort of left home when he was going through the later years of his life, but there's no question he was Dad's favourite. Dad adored him. He was, as Mark said, a bit of a suck around the place. He was always helpful. He was the one who would help Dad build the fence, help Dad do the watering, help Dad with the tennis court, all that sort of stuff. But the thing I found about Matt in his later years was his resilience. As you know, he had issues with his mental health stuff. That didn't stop him being one of the funniest people I've ever met. But his resilience was unbelievable. I mean, living in that joint that he lived in, I know you went to see him, it didn't get him down. He was mates of everybody there. He was just quite extraordinary. And I have no doubt that that resilience in his later years was what held him in good stead in his early years as well, because smart, took the knocks on the footy field, got up, took them again, just a great kid. And not just that, a very loyal person, absolutely loyal to people who stuck fat with him. So I miss him. I miss him on a daily basis. I think about him, funnily enough, on a daily basis. Just little things, his humour, his resilience in that place. I sometimes think about him when, I remember on the footy field, I actually saw him from time to time play footy. He was not the best of the Hulls boys, you know who was, obviously, and it wasn't Mark. But I have those sort of memories on a daily basis, and I just hope this video helps you also have very fond memories of him. He spoke about you on a regular basis, he adored you, and I know that the day you've organised to have people talk about him, I think will bring back some happy memories, and hopefully you'll be able to tell people in the future what a great dad Matt was, because he certainly was. Great bloke.
Sweet. Hi Carla, thanks for today. It's just been an amazing get together and I'm so proud of you. I was just thinking back in way back in primary school when Matt was we were always really close growing up, and he was always looking out for me. to the point where in grade 1, I had quite bad anxiety, and I used to, as soon as the bell went, I'd be screaming and crying, and I was so upset, and I was just looking for Matt, and he would be there for me every single day. And I'll never forget that. He could go off and play with his mates and play in the playground and kick the footy with his mates, but no, he would run straight to me. Are you okay? And he'd always make sure I was okay. And that's one of the memories, an early memory that sticks with me. And he was always there for me until he got unwell, and we all know how it all unfolded. But deep down he had a very big heart, and I love Matt. He was just a very kind older brother. Yeah, that's it.
Hi Carla, it's Wets here in the Sunshine Coast hinterland. Camping not far from where me and Matt shared a couple of camping holidays on the beach, which I'll talk to you about in a moment. I'm really sorry I can't be there with you, Carla, today to share memories of Matt with friends and family. I wish I could be. Love to you all, and we'll catch up before too long. I first met Matt on the bus, up the back of the bus, probably in 1975, when we were both in Year 7 or Form 1 at Peninsula, and we became the greatest of mates. He was like a brother to me, and really we became inseparable friends. And my mum and dad used to comment that I'd seen him every day at school, why would I need to spend all night on the phone with him? But that was the type of friendship we had. We were boys growing into men, and we shared all of those experiences together and talked about them and grew up together. And it was a fantastic friendship and mateship, and I miss him very much, as we all do. I share one particular memory because we're in the area. My mum and dad in about 1973 bought a combi van, a camper van. And we drove up here to the Sunshine Coast, took Matt with us a couple of times I think. We camped at a place called Inskip Point, just at the southern end of Fraser Island. Beautiful spot. Now a major campground, but back then there was nothing. Just the she oaks and the beach and the surf. We had a wonderful time there, and because it was a bit of a drive into Rainbow Beach, Mum and Dad sent me and Matt in to hitchhike along the beach with the four-wheel drives going out to Fraser Island to get some supplies. We're happy to do that. We went into Rainbow Beach with the money to get supplies, decided no, we'll go to the Rainbow Beach pub. And there we sampled our first 4X. We thought it was pretty good. Stayed the whole afternoon. When the sun went down, we thought, well, shit, we better get home now. Hitchhiked back along the beach. It was dark. The dunes were featureless. We had no idea where to get off. The guy that drove us, we were in the back of the ute, drove fast. All the bread and the milk bounced out of the trail along the beach. We came back to camp, eventually finding it with no supplies and a belly full of 4X. I don't think Mum and Dad were too impressed, but it's a happy memory, and we had many like it. I wish I could be there to tell more stories, because as you might imagine, I've got plenty, but there'll be occasions, I hope, in the future when we can do that. But Carla, your old man was a special bloke. There'll never be, for me, another mate like Matt. Love you all. Bye.